This is just a quick solution of the project you were supposed to do. So I had to actually, let me just start off. So that's where we left. So to do multiple line comment, so you select the entire number of lines of code, then you hold on control and the forward slash. So that will actually comment the entire number of lines of code that you selected. So to get the name and the age, so we are going to get the input from the user. So we are going to tell the user maybe like enter your name, then a space. So we're going to store this in a variable. Let's call it name. Then the same thing again. So we're going to request our user for an age. So get the input, then like enter age. Then we are going to perform actually casting. Not casting, but we're just going to perform concatenation directly. So we're going to call print like my name. So let's just say my name is not that. So my name is, then we concatenate directly to the name. And then let's say aged. So make sure you add a space before and after. So age, then plus the age. So that was really very a simple exercise. So once you now click on run without debugging, then it's going to request for our name. So let me just clear this output. So run without debugging. Great. So it's now requesting for my name, Owen, and my age 40. So it now says my name is Owen, age 40. Now, what happens in a scenario? So back into our traveling industry, into our matatu. So we're actually going to do a lot of traveling. So let's say we want to now have a user maybe like enter a luggage. So don't mind this the spelling to make things quick. And then also the price. So from here, we want our user to enter the luggage in maybe like LPS or in kgs. Then we're going to calculate its price. So to do that, we cannot directly like cast them into here because it's going to throw in actually an integer, a type error, so of an integer and a string. So let's say we want to request for the user's number of kgs. So we're going to say maybe the box, or let's just say luggage. So we're going to have this. So we're going to ask for user input. So input, enter weight. So let's call it weight in maybe like LBS. Then we're going to convert it into maybe kgs. So then we're also going to maybe like calculate the price. So we're going to first request for the user input. So once we have that input, then we want now to calculate the price. So the price, or let's say we are charging maybe like $50 for each kilo maybe a user actually has added up. So let's say we now have also want to actually like print out the price later. So we're going to first get the input. So that's the luggage. So let's call it, so we're going to say the luggage, then multiply it maybe by 0.45. So this is now a double of float. So we're going to store this in a variable called price. So we're going to get the user input, then calculate a price. So remember this asterisk we talked about is a multiplication. So we're going to see about mathematical operation in the next session. So we now tell the user to not print, sorry, to print. So once we now tell that, so we're going to say, weight, sorry, the double quotes, weight is, and then we're going to concatenate it with now the weight. So that is actually the luggage. So let's give it a very well descriptive name. So the luggage underscore weight plus the luggage weight underscore weight. Let's say cost. So the cost of the amount. Then we're going to add now the price. Now, this print, sorry, we are working with price, not prints. So when we run this, I'm not sure things gonna work. I want to figure it out. already there's an error here, so unidentified so variable name. So we're just going to update that. So it's actually one of the simplest ways of updating variable names. So that's doing refactor. So you can actually like select, then actually you can check for actually a refactor. So that will allow you to move directly, to rename directly all variables without renaming here, here, and here. So wherever the variable name actually appears, so what you type will actually be renamed. So once we run this, let's see what could happen. So wait in LBS, so let's say 50. Wow, type error as expected. So we are concatenating a float. We can't multiply a sequence of non-integer and a float. So what is Python trying to say? We cannot multiply a string. So remember, wherever that comes from a user, the compiler takes it as a string. So we have to convert this one. So remember the conversions, actually we can convert into a string. You can also maybe like convert into a double, a float, or an integer, and different other types of conversions. So for now, we're going to convert this one into actually an integer. So we're going to cast this one. So I'm going to cast this one into an integer. So once we now cast an integer, Python will actually be satisfied that I can multiply an integer together with actually a float, and not a float with a string, or an integer with a string. So we can now run that. So once we run it, so we're going to add the weight in LBS 50. So we're still having an error, so type can only concatenate a string, not a float. So clear this output. We are now trying to pass in, so we have already solved this one. So we converted this one into an integer. And then the same integer, the value, we are sending it into a variable called price. But what print method does is, it takes this one now as a whole integer. So what we have now to do is we are to convert the price back into a string, so that the print method will allow us to concatenate the rest of the strings. So we are going to actually like call this one. So we're going to say convert it into a string. Boom, we are done. So let's now run this. So again, remember, we still have something here, but why are we not converting this one into maybe maybe into an integer? So remember, I've talked about Python taking user input as a string, so we cannot convert a string into a string again. So what we are only converting is this price, because it's fully an integer. So, and not an input from the compiler, which is always taken by default as a string. Now we can now successfully run our project. So once that is now up and running, so we can say maybe 50, and boom, we are actually on the top. So we are saying the weight is 50 and it costs $22.5. So that's actually like not like, but something cool about this simple calculator. So the next thing we want to do now is, maybe we want to perform a division here. So the way to want to convert it back into the LBS, and then what are we going to do?